Tonight, Wall Street is spinning after more concerns that the situation with the coronavirus might get worse before it gets better. That's actually what some analysts are saying. This while 345 Americans were released from quarantine, and Russia has made a controversial decision to close part of its border along China for national health concerns.
Meanwhile, in South Korea, the number of coronavirus cases have more than doubled in just the last day. Officials report 229 new cases since Friday, bringing the total number there to 433.
The coronavirus is looking more and more like a global pandemic, spreading far beyond mainland China, where the government says strict quarantines have slowed infection rates locally. But even this has failed to stop the virus. In Italy, a few cases this weekend ballooned today to over 200. At least 7 dead, train lines stopped. Nearly a dozen villages declared zone rosse, red zones.
The challenge for the Italians is stopping the spread before it spreads through Europe's open borders, and that starts here at train stations, airports, and transportation hubs.
In Iran, 12 dead so far. The government is racing to increase production of surgical masks. In South Korea, more than 800 now infected. In the most impacted area, a line for face masks went on and on. In Hong Kong, one of the first places hit, I went to see a doctor who just finished his shift working directly with coronavirus victims.
It's been described to me like a cold, except this one will kill you.
Yeah.
Is that about how you see it?
The problem is with this new virus, it comes with a mortality of around 2 to 3%, which is extremely high if you consider it as a flu virus.
If it can impact a fifth of the population,
it would be a catastrophe, yes.
I followed Dr. Wong as he went to see his wife for dinner. She's pregnant, so they kept far apart, eating takeout at a distance, texting back and forth. The virus now nearing pandemic proportions, as doctors believe many countries, especially those bordering China, probably have more cases than they know about or are reporting.
It's been a nightmare in Hollywood blockbusters for years. Asteroids hitting Earth. Or at least threatening to do it.
I want to know why we didn't see this coming.
This morning, our own close call. A giant asteroid buzzed past Earth, missing us by about 3.5 million miles. Sounds like a lot, but in cosmic terms, that's too close for comfort. About 15 times the distance of the moon from the Earth.
So it's not going to pose any hazard to us, but it's a reminder that there are objects that are out there that are large, that could potentially cause a threat.
The giant rock, according to NASA, has a diameter of about 3,200 feet. That's just about the height of the Empire State Building 3 times over. Space watchers say they've been monitoring this asteroid for years and never feared it.
Space is really big, and the possibility of one of these objects ever coming close enough to actually hit us and cause a problem is really, really low. So we're not in any danger at all.
Asteroids this size can do serious damage. If one hit Earth, it could set off a nuclear winter with all the dust it would shoot into the atmosphere, destroy everything around the impact zone, and set fire to part of a continent. Just ask the dinosaurs. Their mass extinction is blamed on an asteroid strike 66 million years ago.
The moment the 5.7 magnitude earthquake rattled villages in the Turkish province of Van, people in the area close to the border with Iran rushed outside into the streets. What followed was panic, pandemonium, and desperate cries for help.
It all happened within 2 seconds. We ran away and the building collapsed. My sheep and cows were buried under the rubble. If the earthquake had happened at night, we wouldn't have survived.
Rescue teams scrambled to reach survivors under the rubble. Turkey's government assessing the damage.
Şu ana kadar buralara, yani 4 köye.
There are no more people under the rubble. We will be taking extra precautions for the upcoming hours.
Tents are being set up to house the homeless, but it's still winter here, keeping out the cold is essential. Fearful of aftershocks, many are planning to spend the night in the open.
A standoff in Guinea's capital. Tear gas filled the streets as another round of mass anti-government protests turned violent. Police used slingshots with stones as they tried to disperse the crowds, and protesters fought back. Arrests were made by security forces.
My mother told me to go to the garage to work. I told her there's a strike on today. She wanted me to go anyway, but I went outside. The police arrested me. I was just trying to get to work.
This building was set alight in the demonstrations. It was a local business. A coalition of opposition groups calling itself the National Front for the Defence of the Constitution has been spearheading the protests. It called for a national strike on Wednesday, which saw many shops close.
One of Mexico's most iconic species, the monarch butterfly, has just lost perhaps its greatest advocate.
Ven a conocerla. Una gran maravilla.
Homero Gomez Gonzalez, known as Mexico's monarch butterfly defender, was found dead in a pond in the state of Michoacán. Gomez's mysterious disappearance 2 weeks before his body was found has raised concerns among many in Mexico who say violence against environmental activists has become commonplace.
He was a defender of the environment in a region with many conflicts. Michoacán is a perfect example of where natural resources are under a lot of pressure, especially when it comes to forests being cleared for avocado plantations.
The iconic monarch butterfly is known for its annual migration to the forests of central Mexico, where millions spend the winter.
Es una maravilla de la naturaleza. Es la mariposa viajera.
Days before his disappearance, Homero Gomez posted this video on social media. Surrounded by thousands of flapping wings, Gomez invited tourists to visit his butterfly sanctuary.
So what is happening in the French capital today?
Well, here thousands, tens of thousands of people have gathered to march from a point from the Place de la République in the northeast of the capital to another square in the northwest of the capital. There are 200 demonstrations and marches planned today across France, and obviously the strike is going into its 36th day in a row.
He was one of the UN's top human rights officials. Assistant Secretary General Andrew Gilmore, seen here with Rohingya refugees in Bangladesh, served the international organisation for 30 years. Now he's stepped down and he's given a scathing assessment of the state of human rights, particularly in Israel and the Palestinian territories.
How bad is the situation on the ground, particularly in Gaza, for ordinary people?
It is absolutely appalling, I would say. In Gaza, the actual physical condition of people is indescribable. It is, to me, just scandalous that the world allows that siege. It's a siege, essentially. I mean, it's a word that when I was in the UN, we couldn't use that without getting a lot of protest. But effectively, that's what it is. Goods are not properly allowed in, and people are not allowed out.
He agreed with the assessment that the situation is similar to the way white-controlled South Africa was run until the beginning of the 1990s, apartheid.
It's very hard to see that situation and not regard it as of a segregation that is so profound that it reaches the level of apartheid. But I've never seen a greater deliberate humiliation of an entire people, and that has been a very consistent trend.
Huawei with 16 counts. Federal prosecutors claim that the company conspired to steal trade secrets from 6 U.S. companies. Their indictment also alleges that Huawei installed surveillance equipment in Iran. They say that it was used to monitor, identify, and detain demonstrators during anti-government protests in 2009. The telecommunications company claims that the U.S. is attempting to damage its reputation. The White House placed Huawei on a so-called trade blacklist last year. U.S. officials expressed national security concerns. That included fears that the company might spy on customers on behalf of the Chinese government.
There's an eerie silence at this textile factory. The wheels of industry have come to a near grinding halt. The majority of looms have been silent for 18 months. Its owner spoke to us on a condition of anonymity to protect what little he has left in terms of a business.
First of all, implementation of GST was not good, too many hassles. Then economic downturn all over the world, not just India but all over the world, and too much changing in government policies, too many trade barriers coming up in export markets.
His concerns are shared by many of the 14,000 textile factory owners in the city. Many say they've seen their profits plummet by 25% and had to lay off workers.
They are in trouble.
For one industry leader, the whole system needs to be looked at. He says industrialists are having to make hard choices about where to invest and how many staff to employ.
The government rushed to apply GST and hasn't got it right. Tax refunds are needed to complete the financial circle and keep businesses afloat. They are not refunded and stuck with government, so businessmen are dipping into profits to run their factories until they are reimbursed.
Lightweight.
Vishal Kumar's factory produces clothing and is running smoothly despite the financial headwinds. He told me it's tough to juggle both the new taxes, keep products competitively priced, and his 250 staff employed. Those in the textile